We're recording the interview of Warren Simmons. This interview is being conducted by Ericka Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at the Holiday Inn in Fairborn, Ohio. It is 3:35 p.m. on October 19th, 2019. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here today and agreeing to do this interview.
Happy to do it for you.
Yay! Where and when were you born?
I was born in Washington, D.C., not too far from the Capitol building, in 1942. Doctor's Hospital was his name. It's no longer there, by the way.
What is it now?
They just tore it down. I don't know what they built there. I haven't
Been back?
been not to that area.
Really?
I've probably driven by it 100 times, but I don't recall it.
Okay.
The area.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations at that time?
My mother was working as a store clerk somewhere at that time, and my father, he was, I believe, a furniture salesman. That's all I ever knew what he did. That was the Second World War was just kicking up and starting to go, and my father got drafted the next year in 1943. He was 28 years old at the time, and he ended up getting shipped to Anzio with the 45th Infantry Division, and he fought his way up through Italy into France, got wounded, went back to Italy as a store clerk or a sergeant in charge of supply or something until he got discharged and came home. And my mother was a housewife after I got born, and we lived in Washington, D.C. at the time. And in 1948, they all moved out to Maryland into one of the brand new housing developments out there. It's about 6 miles from Washington, D.C. And I was raised there and went to high school at Wheaton High School. And somehow I finally graduated. As soon as I graduated, I joined the Army.
Okay, so when you say one of the new housing developments, was that like on VA? Was there a VA property or just it was new housing and you guys?
It was just brand new housing, and then of course all the troops coming back from overseas were wanting to move somewhere. So they started expanding and moving out, and that was old farmland originally, and they made it, 3-bedroom, 2-story houses, colonial style. Got a front yard and a backyard, and they were affordable, which is a big thing. They were affordable. They weren't very big, but that's what happened back then, and that's where we were raised. And I had 2 sisters born. One was born 6 years after I was, and the other was born a year and a half later. So there was a big separation between myself and my 2 sisters.
Were you happy to have siblings?
At 6 years old, you really don't know. I'd rather had a dog, probably.
Did either of them join the military?
No, they didn't. Matter of fact, one sister, the oldest sister, she went to work for the government and retired as a GS-13. And she moved to Arkansas. My youngest sister got married and had a couple kids and got sick of the DC area and moved to Arkansas 30 years ago, long before her other sister moved there. And they knocked around doing this, that, and the other, and they're still living out there, both of them are living out there. Love it.
Now, when you lived in the Washington, D.C. area and both your parents lived there, did you guys have other family? Like, were your grandparents there and stuff like that?
My
Or
grandmother, I only had one grandmother left, and it was on my father's side. And she would come down a couple times a year and spend a few days with us, a week or something like that, and then go back to Richmond, Virginia. That's where she was from. That was only 100 some miles away. It's not that far. But on my mother's side, her parents died long before I was born. And I had a few aunts and uncles on her side, but my father was the only child. So we had a pretty small family, to tell you the truth. But it was a good life. We had a good time. I never got caught and got in trouble, so.
so that doesn't mean there wasn't trouble. You just didn't get caught.
I didn't get caught.
Good job. So you said you went to high school. Of course you went to high school. Did you have any other activities that you did in high school?
The only thing I did in high school was work.
A job?
A job. I started working at 15 and selling shoes. You know, I sold shoes up until I joined the Army. Edwards shoes, Miles shoes. I worked a couple of years or so in Butler shoes, which was a woman's shoe store. And, I enjoyed it, had a good time. I had a girlfriend. I was going to get married and join the Army, and that didn't work out.
Why did you pick the Army?
I guess because my father was in the Army.
How did he feel about you joining?
I think he was happy, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah. I think he, because I was in a dead-end job. I wasn't going to college. I didn't want anything to do with college. And, he didn't want me hanging around the house, and I was going to get married. I was planning on getting married, and I didn't have a pot to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was happy because I know all of my relatives were happy and neighbors. Oh man, that's all right. And I joined with a guy up the street that I went to high school with. He joined same time.
Okay. What year was this?
1961.
Okay.
Right after high school, August.
And you chose to enlist because you didn't want to go to college, of course, I assume. You enlisted because you didn't want to go to college.
Correct.
Okay. So can you tell me about basic training? Do you remember any of that?
Oh, I went to basic training at Fort Dix, and it was an eye-opener for me because
That's in New York, right?
New Jersey, Fort Dix, New Jersey. Right in central New Jersey, pretty much. I think it's still there, but it's not used as a basic training. It's a reserve area or something. But you pile in there, and they treat you like dogs. And then you end up going into a company, and of course they're screaming and hollering at you. And you're not used to it. And you're put in a lovely barracks, you know. You got a private room that you only shared with 43 other guys. Up on the top floor and 43 on the bottom floor. And I got through it. It was all right. Nothing spectacular.
Do you remember your drill instructors?
My drill sergeant was Sergeant Nicolini. I'll never forget him. He was an infantry sergeant, and he had been in Korea before he came there. And the captain, CO of the base, or the company, was named Miller. Why I remember these 50, they burnt my brain, I guess. But I remember them, and they got me through. I don't know, sometimes they just shook their head, you know, do dumb things. But I made it. And, most of the other people did too.
Mostly, huh?
It was an experience.
Okay. Were they? I'm quite sure your basic training experience was different than my basic training experience. Um, were they physically abusive? Um, were you serving with African Americans?
We had African Americans there, and most of our cadre there was Filipinos, and not Filipinos, Puerto Ricans, excuse me. A lot of them came back from the Korean War. They fought in the Korean War and got their citizenship. That was part of the deal. You fight for us, you get your citizenship, and bunches of them. And when they came back, they all moved into New York, a lot of them. And Fort Dix was very close to New York, and a lot of them stayed in the military, and they earned their pay. They were good. Good. And but we had blacks in our unit. I don't recall any Asiatics. All the religions you can think of were in there, but it was pretty mixed up, and they treated us all exactly alike. We were dirt. And of course, when they try to eliminate the hoodlums and the ones that can't hack it out, they kicked a few out. Most of them were for physical problems instead of mental. But I had a school waiting for me, and almost everybody else had a school waiting for them.
Did you pick your job when you signed your contract, or?
Yes, I did.
And what job was that?
Military Intelligence, ASA, Army Security Agency.
How high did you have to score on your ASVAB for that job?
I don't remember, to tell you the truth. But when I took my ASVABs, they looked at them and said I was qualified for that particular job. Myself and this guy I joined with, both of us went into the ASA. Unfortunately, the day we were supposed to get our jobs, he was sick with a horrible cold and had to go on sick call. And when he came back, they assigned him MP school. I went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts, and he went to some other place for MP school because he missed the interviews. He went to ASA, but as an MP, military police, which they did back then. And he went to Berlin, Germany, and met his wife, and they're still married.
So why ASA?
Army Security Agency?
Yeah.
It sounded
Cool.
kind of interesting, yeah. They couldn't tell us anything about what we were going to do. They said it's all sort of undercover, You do that. Of course.
So you heard like Bond music in your head?
Yeah, that's James Bond. Yeah, that's great. I think there's only been one James Bond movie up by that time. But anyway, we thought it was pretty good. And you had to have a high score or a good enough score to get into it. And I got there, and I was kind of remorseful, in fact, when I got there, that the first thing they tried to do is put headsets on me and teach me Morse code. I was slow at Morse code, terrible. But I finally made it, and passed the requirements, and juggled around.
How long was ASA school? ASI? ASA?
Let me see, I think I got up there in November '61, and I graduated and left there in June '62.
So quite a while.
That's quite a while. I mean, it wasn't just going to learn how to do Morse code. I went over to another career field where they were teaching me non-Morse communications. And that was a different avenue. I was slow on the Morse code.
So you got held back in that track?
I was slow in that, but you had to get a certain speed, and then you qualified to go into the non-Morse area.
Are any of those technologies outdated now that you had to learn?
Every one of them. Morse code has just disappeared. And I can't speak about some of the others because I don't know. It's been going on 30 years, and the technology has changed so much, and I'm not privy to what they're doing now. I have a good idea how they're doing it, but I can't.
That's speculation.
Can't speculate on that.
Okay. So you went to school that long. Tell me about your barracks and what you did in your time off and what AIT was like overall.
Oh, AIT, well, that was at Fort Devens. I don't know if you know where Fort Devens, Massachusetts is. It's cold, real cold up there.
Mm-hmm.
They get a lot of snow, freezing ice. Really cold. I had a car though. I had an uncle that was in Pearl Harbor during the Second World War. I was named after him. Well, no, I was named after another one. This was uncle that he was at Pearl Harbor when it got bombed, and he had shell shock and stuff like that from the campaign. And when he found out I was going to the Army, he gave me a little Fiat. I had a old Ford, right? I got that Fiat and I used that to drive back and forth. 450 miles from Devens to my house. But it was cold up there, cold, cold, cold. And we lived in open barracks. 23 upstairs, 23 downstairs. It was, I was used to it though. You know, you got a private shower with 5 other guys, you know, no big deal. So we weren't modest, and you got over it pretty quick. It was all male. And the women didn't come into the service till a while later.
So overall, your adjustment to the military was seamless, pretty smooth?
Well, it went real smooth, yeah. And I really got to the point that that was for me. That's, you know. As a matter of fact, when about 2.5 years after I was in the service, I was out in California, a place called Two Rock Ranch, Petaluma, California. It's a Army Security Agency base. It's up north of San Francisco. And, it's a Coast Guard station school now, I believe. And Petaluma, California. And we had a big antenna field out about it, a blockhouse in the middle, and we did our little thing in there. And I did my little thing. And I went home on leave and met this young lady from the hills of Virginia. And, next thing you know, we're pretty much in love, I guess. She got pregnant. I had to go back to California and this, that, and the other, back and forth. I went back home again. And, things happened in California. I got sick of the place. And I put in to go to Korea. And that's where I met these guys. So I extended my enlistment for a couple months and went to Korea. Fell in love with Korea. I had a wonderful time there. The mission we did, and camaraderie, and living up in a DMZ. And I had a good time. I loved it.
I enjoyed Korea too.
It was great. It's fantastic.
Best people ever.
Oh yeah, people were great. I love them.
It's something about being away from home that can really bring you together. It's something about it. I must
Korean
say.
people are wonderful people.
Okay, so I think we
And
skipped a few years. After AIT, you graduated, and then what was your first duty station?
To Rock Ranch, California.
Oh, so that was your first duty station.
Yeah, but that was in California from Massachusetts, so I had
Okay.
to sell my car. Wasn't going to drive a Fiat across country.
Okay.
So I got out there and got a little clunker and blew it up. And
And you didn't care for California?
the cost of living is just atrocious back then. I was only making $124 a month. Yeah, that was all I got paid for an E4. I still remember that to this day.
I have no words. I
That was base pay for a soldier for an E4.
I can't even find a question. I have no words. Could you eat at the chow hall?
Yeah, that's what we ate at. Yeah.
And still just...
You ate at the chow hall and you got $124 a month before taxes and deductions. Before taxes and deductions. That was a base pay.
So you lived on post,
Lived
ate
on
on post,
Yeah.
and $124 still wasn't enough.
Go to the NCO club, or the club, right? You could buy beer. You got a quarter of beer. Yeah. We got by. And
Okay.
then
You went home, visited home, came back.
Mhm.
I can't do so. Let me go somewhere. I want to go to Korea. And Korea, they will always send you to Korea. If you volunteer for Korea, they send you right away.
My platoon sergeant, he was been in Korea, and he talked about it all the time. We worked midnight shifts and stuff, and he had gift for gab. He was pretty good.
Now, can you
He taught me into it. Not inadvertently, he taught me into it.
Now, can you tell me about your work hours and what an average day might be like for someone in your field?
Oh, well, in the field I was in, we worked 6-2, 6-2, 6-2. 6 days, 2 days off, calendar days. 6 evening shifts, 2 calendar days. 6 midnight shifts, 2 calendar days. Round the clock. You worked 8 hours, the other shift came in. 6-2, 6-2 rotating. And no holidays, nothing.
That seems...
And we just worked in a blockhouse with antennas all around us. And that's what we did.
Now
Most of these guys here,
you say blockhouse.
a blockhouse.
I just...
A building, a great big cement or cinder block building with no windows.
I just picture a house
And a
where they
guard-
make cocaine. Like, I just picture a house where cocaine is made. No one comes in, no one goes out. Everybody...
Well, basically the same thing.
Okay.
But it's a secure building.
Right.
And you got a MP on the gate. You have MPs on the door sometimes. And you have to show your badge like this, a security badge. If you didn't have a badge and you left it at home, you had to turn around and go back home and get it.
Okay. Did you guys do PT?
Back then, very little, because we were on a rotating shift and
So PT tests didn't...
we were in military intelligence, and we were off, we didn't
Those
sort of
standards.
join the regular army.
Okay.
We did special things.
Okay.
We didn't go on field problems with them
Okay.
because we weren't assigned to infantry divisions or something like that. We were ASA, and
Okay.
that was it.
All right.
And I enjoyed it. I loved my job.
Okay.
And I did it all over the world.
Another question.
Okay.
Might be classified, might not be.
Okay.
Did you guys use a lot of paper?
Huh?
Did you use a lot of paper?
At work?
Yes.
Oh my, yeah, reams of it, reams and
Oh.
reams and reams.
I was hoping you'd be more green.
Huh?
I was hoping you guys would be more green, recycling and stuff.
We had teletypes running constantly.
Teletypes?
Typewriters.
Okay, I know what a typewriter is.
Okay, well, teletypes is an electronic. You put a signal in it, and it's transmitted, and it'll transmit A's, B's, C's, and it'll spell out words, and it's printed out. And
Okay.
we had that on there. Guys sat there typing Morse code all the time. Guys sit there listening to the radio and listen for people talking. All sorts of things.
Did you guys have, how did you guys eat? Did you get to go run to McDonald's and get something to eat? Or did you guys have a chow hall inside the building?
If you didn't bring it, you didn't eat.
Got it. Okay.
That's the way it worked.
All right. So
we worked 8 hours and we're off.
Okay.
Sometimes we had a little detail or something like that. But for the most part, we had a little military training. Every month or so we could have a couple hours, watch a training flick or listen to chaplain talk. Listen to him for an hour or so. That was our training, stuff like that.
What did you guys do when women came on board?
They blended in perfectly with us.
Okay.
They fit right in, except after duty hours, a lot of them got
cozy.
Yeah, they got entwined. And, I was married, I'd been married for quite a while before they got them in there. So they just got. It was another problem for an NCO to take on because hearts were broken and people were tearful sometimes. And some of the girls get pregnant. Guys, it's the same old problem that they got in civilian life. It's no different.
Okay.
But we got along fine with them.
All right. So Korea, up on the hill.
Yeah.
In and out one door. MP's at the door.
Yeah.
You're working your 8 and 2.
Yeah, did that there too in Korea. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good times are being had. How long were you there? A year?
I was there for 13 months or 14.
Okay.
I had to extend to go over there. And then I put in to re-enlist for Germany from Korea. Okay. And they approved it. And I didn't leave Korea until middle of October. And then I went back to the States, got married, and went right to Germany. And they got my wife sent over there. We moved in government quarters. I went back and forth to work in the blockhouse again, and she stayed at home, took care of the baby.
And so the first baby was a boy or girl?
Little girl.
Little girl.
Beautiful little girl. She lives right outside of Washington, D.C. now. She's 55 years old.
So young.
Huh?
So young.
So young, yeah.
So young. Okay. Fantastic. So you were in Germany, I want to assume for 4 years because the Army does.
No, that was 3 years.
3 years?
That was a 3-year tour.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I wanted to go from Germany to Japan. I put in to go for it, and they told me, no, you can't because you've had 2 overseas tours already in a row, and you got to go back to the States.
What year is it at this time?
That was in 67.
So Vietnam is happening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But my particular MOS wasn't used in Vietnam. They would have to train me in something else, or put me over as a guard or something like that on a compound, for this Army Security Agency. But anyway, I got back to the States to a place called Vent Hill Farms. right out of Washington, D.C., about 40 miles. In beautiful Fauquier County. Got all these stables and stuff around there. And they called it Van Hill Farms because they opened it up in the Second World War. Put up a bunch of antennas and stuff and did something there. And really well-to-do area. And I spent...
I was just thinking, could you afford it yet? Did you get some rank? Could you afford it?
I was an E6.
So you could afford it?
Staff sergeant. You couldn't afford anything.
Still, you couldn't afford anything yet?
Not in, I was getting $130 a month housing allowance. I rented a house for $130, okay, but they sold it out from under me.
Oh.
Then I moved into a townhouse 15 miles from work in Manassas, Virginia. That's like you going down to D.C. And then I was on a housing list, and they said they could take me. So I moved out of the townhouse. I moved into government quarters using my quarters allowance. Hey, all right, I'll take care of that. So I'm there a couple more months. Hey, you're going to Japan, which I asked for when I was in Germany. I've been in the States 10 months total when I left. And I went to Japan.
Were you able to see your parents? Did they still live in Maryland?
Yeah, they live right there. Right.
So they got to see their grandbaby, and they were
time.
super happy.
Yeah, and then we're gone for a 3-year tour. We thought.
Was it still just the one daughter
Just
at this
the one
time?
daughter,
Okay.
yeah. And we got to Japan, and you've never been to northern Japan, have you?
No, not
Hokkaido.
No.
That's where we were at, and it's one of the coldest places in the world, I think. It's cold up there. It's right across from Siberia.
Ooh.
Sapporo. You've heard of the ice festivals up in Sapporo. That's why they're up there. It was cold. But anyway, my wife was pregnant as we went over there, and she had another little girl. It's about 5 years after the other one. And lo and behold, 3 months later, she's pregnant again. And exactly 1 year to the day, May 30th, we had a son. So, and then they closed the station. We're going to send you back to Massachusetts. I said, No, I'm not going back to Massachusetts. No, I don't like it up there. I want to go to Germany. Okay, we'll send you to Germany. So I went back to Rothwest of Germany from Japan. And it took a while when I got my wife over there and stuff and got quarters. And no sooner got in quarters and stuff. We're closing Rothwest. We're consolidating down to Augsburg, Germany, which is about 250 miles south, down near Munich. We're up north of Frankfurt. I don't know if you're familiar with Germany. It's up in the northern part of Germany. It's short summers, and it gets dark early in the winter. And then we went down south, and it was more pleasant. And back in another building, blockhouse with a big antenna around it. I finished my tour out there. And
So what year is it now?
gosh, when was that?
Let's see.
I'm having a hard time.
75?
70, 1970, I think. I retired 84, but
Well,
I can't. The
okay.
date I can't get in my mind. It's been so long. But I spent another year and a half.
You went to Germany, in 67, the first time you
So I went to 64 to 67, 3 years.
Right, and then you did 10 months in Massachusetts.
No,
And
I went from there. I went to Vent Hill Farms, Virginia,
okay, I'm sorry.
and spent 10 months.
Right, so that
And
was
then
Virginia.
I went to Korea, or rather Japan, for 2 years. Japan, they closed Japan down, and I had to go somewhere. They were trying to send me back to the States. I went back to Germany.
But
After
you,
that,
and then
that
it was
was,
10 months in Massachusetts after, okay, Japan and then Germany. And then they sent you back down. So 67, 8, 9, 10, 11, I know, sorry, 7, so 72, about 72.
When I came back from
Germany,
the second time,
yeah,
that sounds about right.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe.
Then I came from there, in Germany. I came to Florida, and went to advanced school
For
my job,
ASA.
ASA.
Mhm.
Okay, and I spent about 6 months, 7 months down here.
Then did you
And
go
I
by
went-
yourself or was your family with you?
I had my family with me. We had a little house, and I got assigned to Massachusetts, and my wife didn't want to go up there. She was burnt out, so I went up there by myself, and I came to Florida first to go to school. I went to advanced school. They sent me to Massachusetts, and I became an instructor, and I was instructing up there. And after that, I got sick of instructing and sick of not having a family with me, and my family she didn't want them to cooperate. I went to Thailand. Okay, went over there.
We had a base there?
Yeah.
Oh,
With
wait.
a big block building with an antenna around it by it.
Was this like
Udorn, Thailand.
Thai? Do you know the name of the base?
Udorn,
Udorn.
Thailand.
What year was this? 74? 5?
Hard questions, because God.
Was Vietnam over yet?
Yes, it was over. That was over with.
So I'm thinking it was 76.
Probably 77, 78, didn't I? Probably 78. I came back. I spent
How?
4 years in
Instructing?
instructing again down in Florida, and then I
Okay.
retired there. Well, I didn't. It was not all instructing. I got there, and
And your wife stayed in Florida the whole time?
yeah, she was an old. Well, no. What happened? Wait a minute. I'm getting confused now.
I'm sorry, I'll hush.
It was in Thailand. They closed it, okay? They were going to send me back to Massachusetts. No. Sent me back to Germany. So they sent me back to Germany. And went back to Germany, and I ended up spending, I think it was 2 years in Rothweston, and I went down to Augsburg and spent a year and a half up there, and a year and a half down in Augsburg. Yeah. Oh, God, my brain is dead.
That's okay.
I have to write all that down. I was over there so many times.
Yeah,
But
you were.
Yeah, and
Now, when
finished.
people... Oh, okay, I'm
Huh?
sorry. I said, when people see you coming, do they assume that the base is going to close at this point?
No, well, we didn't know that it was going to close. You just-
Several bases have closed every time
almost
you
all of
showed
them
up.
Closed. They're all closed. You know,
I
I go back. The only place that's open now is in the Navy base there in Florida is still open. They still have teaching students there. It's been 30 years, and I have no idea how they got an Army detachment there, but I have no contact with those people. I retired in '84 finally, and went to work, lawn maintenance business. Then I went to use my VA for education. Went to craft schools, went to lawn maintenance, horticulture, took that. Then I took marine mechanics, and I took air conditioning. Then I got, while I was in air conditioning class, a Navy commander, a lieutenant commander, joined the course, and he got offered a job as an aircraft maintenance on base, taking over a civilian job. He said he'd get me a job there. So I ended up going on base at NAS Pensacola, working in a aviation maintenance job. And I did that till I was 68, and I just flat retired. Been retired ever since. And my wife passed away a year ago. So,
Sorry to hear that.
so that's pretty much the story. I don't have all the dates. I'd have to sit down and write them all out again. I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Where did your kids go to school? Where did they?
For the Army?
No, for the majority, like when your wife got tired of moving around, where were your kids going to school at?
They were in the elementary school and high school, right here in Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, okay. So
that's where we lived. We lived in Pensacola.
Okay.
And matter of fact, while I was in Thailand, she found a house around the corner from where we're living, and she got me to sign the paperwork. We bought the house, and I went back and moved in with her when I came back from Thailand. And then she didn't want to move, and I got an assignment to Germany. I said, "You're going to have to move with me. That's all there is to it. I can't be alone anymore." And then she went with me, so we spent 3 years over there together. We came right back to the same place, and then I retired a few years later.
Smooth sailing. Where do your other two children live? One lives outside of DC, and
one lives outside of DC, and the other lives up west of Pittsburgh. She's an accountant. She does accounting. She's got her own business. Matter of fact, she's at my house in Florida, dog sitting right now with all her accounting stuff. She's doing that all online. Computer. And my son lives 20 miles from me. He joined the Army and put in 28 years and retired as a command sergeant major in aviation. So we got a lot in common. We talk a lot.
He just went one above you, huh?
Huh?
He just went one above you, huh?
Yes, he did. He spent.
Did you get to pin him?
I was there at the I didn't pin him, no. That's before the promotions ceremony, but I was there for the promotion ceremony with him and two other sergeant majors got command sergeant major jobs. That was my wife and I were really proud of him. He did well, and all three of them got degrees from college. I can't beat that. 3 kids and they all got degrees. That's what I was tickled with that. As a matter of fact, that's on the door of the monument, where I had my wife interned. That's all, I put that on there. 3 kids graduated college. So
That is a big deal.
We're proud of that.
Yeah. Have you kept in contact with any of your military friends or comrades?
Not unless they live in the area. Haven't corresponded with any of them. I used to correspond with, and but they all died off. It's been, I'm 77 years old, so it's been, some of them were old, 10 years older than me at the time, so it's.
Well, I would have never guessed you were 77, sir.
Yeah.
You look all of 61.
Thank you. So.
Okay. Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
Nope.
Is this a veterans organization?
I guess you could call it that. It's not, they don't go around beating on the drums and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess it is. This is the only one I belong to, thing I belong to. I've been to the couple dinners with the ASA people. I see a few of them every now and then, but that's it.
What are some life lessons that you've learned from your military service?
Pay your bills. That's one of the biggest no-nos there is not pay your bills. We push that hard in the military. It stuck with me. I always paid mine anyway, but I've seen what it does to careers, people's careers and things, that they overextend themselves. It's just, there's no excuse for it. It's ignorance. And of course, I was a first sergeant for a while, and you deal with these problems. And it makes you sort of unratty, you know. Of course, these young kids coming right out of basic training, coming to your school, and then I had senior NCOs in there also, students, and mid-grade NCOs going to special things. But that's one of the big things I learned in the military. And of course, I like to think that civil rights, I was raised in a family that treated everybody equal. We had all kinds of friends, every nationality, race. And the military when I went in, that wasn't part of the situation for us in this particular ASA, because you had to have a security clearance, and it was hard for people to get security clearances unless they had to come from a good family with good incomes and everything else. And unfortunately, the blacks, they had problems with that. It was hard for them to get into it. We got them in, started getting in more and more and more. And some of the best soldiers in the Army, why they didn't get in earlier was an admin thing. And, got along with them great. Lived with them. Government quarters, no problems. Just kind of missed military service. But in some ways, in other ways, I say, man, I'm glad I got my pension and gone.
It's good to be retired.
Yes, indeed.
What do you do with your free time these days?
I got a couple dogs. I walk them every morning at 4:30 in the morning. And,
is that even safe?
where I live is fine.
Okay.
All the hoodlums are off the street at 4:30 usually. They're all potted up and in bed. And usually when they go out there and see a big dog, they go the other way. So I do that. Do a little fishing, and not much. Take care of the house and the yard. As I say, my wife just passed away, so it's just, I'm getting into the doing things by myself mode.
When we talked earlier, you don't really have any technology anymore, right?
No, I don't.
Is that because you know something I don't?
Technology?
Yeah. Like, is Big Brother really out there? You don't have a cell phone, you don't keep an email.
I don't need all that. I got a television, that's all that.
Okay, I just.
Cell phone bugs me. The phone I got on the wall bugs me enough. I don't need a cell phone now.
Okay.
You know? And the computer, my wife worked on the computer all the time. I stayed away from her computer because I would screw it up. And I had enough computers and stuff that I worked on when I was in the Army. Forget this stuff. I don't need that. So.
All right. Okay. I was just
My biggest problem with phones right now is you can't go and put a quarter in a phone and pick up one anymore. You can't find them. They don't have them anymore. So, if on this trip, thank goodness the guy that came down with me, he's got a phone. And he lives on it anyway. So, but I don't have anybody I really want to call that much on an everyday basis. So. Well, I don't want to be bothered.
Oh, are you an avid reader?
Nope.
Okay. Me either. School gives me enough reading. Okay. Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or that should be added to this interview?
Not really. Just people are listening. Pay your bills. Don't overextend yourself and live life. And don't be prejudiced and treat everybody like you want to be treated. That's the way I like. Just because you're a colonel or a general or a supervisor somewhere, get your nose out of the air. Talk to people like you like to be talked to.
I think you answered my next question, but I still have to ask it. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear or see this interview?
I think I've answered it. Just obey the law, pay your bills, don't be prejudiced. Treat everybody like you'd like to be treated yourself.
That concludes our interview with Warren Simmons. Thank you so much for your time today and for your military service.
Well, thank you.